Directly from the tent of the BroomWagon Podcast, this is Over the Shoulder, a podcast about riding on mud, jumping on steps, hopping on planks, aka Cyclocross Fest. Welcome again in the house of Over the Shoulder, aka welcome back on the BroomWagon Podcast. You will not get there on a road bike. How was the first week? The first week of Over the Shoulder for me, it was incredible. It blew me away. So many nice feedback, so many good, nice messages, especially seeing the awesome illustration from leader James Arnold. How did you like it? I mean, you're going to find it on my Instagram account and also on the Instagram account of the BroomWagon Podcast and also on the Instagram account of Little James Harden and on the sponsor of this miniseries, Hunt Road. I mean, we mentioned everybody, but yeah, Calamaro CC and the BroomWagon Podcast. That's something that I was missing as an Instagram account. It was incredible because I got a lot of super warm messages. Seems like there are so many cyclocross lovers in this world, but nobody comes out of it. Probably because it's a winter sport. So what's better in winter than stay home and under a blanket and sip some good hot chocolate? I know what's better, 100%. Drink a beer, especially if it's alcohol-free beer, on the course of a cyclocross event. Thanks everybody for being here also today, and thanks a lot again to who made this podcast happen. And I'm talking about Hunt Wheels, and it's just incredible. Something that I was thinking is that it's super cool to work with brands that are so much forward thinking. Why I'm saying that? First of all, because it's not super easy to find somebody who sponsors a podcast as just a crazy idea from a crazy mind like mine. And that's super nice. But also, we have to say that Hunt was really pioneering a lot of the trends that now you can see all over cycling. For example, disc brakes on drop bar bikes. We are talking about really long time ago, but for example, I was having this conversation super long time ago with Josh Shibet. Josh Shibet is also part of the Hunt family, and he was actually winning the transcontinental race on some Hunt wheels. It was actually the fourth season Hunt wheel, the one that actually now you would call all-road. Back then, 2015, nobody knew anything about disc brakes on wheels, all-road bikes. Two big pioneers were actually there playing the game. One is, of course, Mason Cycles. You heard about that in another episode 1 year ago on this podcast. But then the perfect pair was made with Hunt wheels. And then, of course, another forward-thinking thing was actually thinking already about all-road / gravel already 2015, even before, because nobody was putting big rims, something like large rims, and on top of it, tires that were over a certain level. I mean, in 2015, everybody was doing road cycling with 21 millimeters tires. Well, they started already with something a tiny bit bigger, something like 30 millimeters. Something like this. It's so incredible. Now everybody, I mean, the people that are going tightener or smaller in road cycling and road cycling rims are probably going for 32. World Tour is probably 30. Well, everything was already thought. Everything was already planned back then, thanks to Hunt. And of course maybe that's I will go into the aero thing if it's really a topic later on. Now we have to talk about cyclocross, another one of the Hunt Wheels family that you heard and listened already on this podcast is Gosse van der Meer. After winning a lot of races in Europe, World Cup, C2 level, Super Prestige, X20, everything. At a certain point, he decided to shift a bit, going exploring new places with this cyclocross life. In this episode, Gosse is gonna bring us in his new adventure in the Far East. Listen to him. Episode number 2 of the podcast, actually the mini series, because the podcast is still the BroomWagon, but the mini series now has a title as well. Thanks a lot, Alex, to give me this hint, and it's Over the Shoulder. And today, the guest of the episode is somebody that you would recognize him from the voice. Say something.
Good evening, everybody.
People, I'm gonna give you another hint. Say, I don't know, something like whatever it could be. I don't know. Say something about cyclocross words. What can you say?
Boo!
Pull down the tire pressure. This could be good.
Okay, so setting the tire pressure is essential for cyclocross because it's the only means of suspension and grip you have.
That's awesome. If you don't recognize him, I'm gonna say the name. It's Gosse van der Meer. Second time, actually, I would say third time on this podcast, because the first episode was that long that I had to split it in two, and it was around Christmas time on 2019, as I remember correct. And I'm super honored because today we're gonna talk specifically cyclocross and specifically about your adventure at the moment. Gosse, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's life is good. So I'm enjoying a lot. It's raining a lot in Europe. I've seen lately, and I've been riding in the sun almost every day. And
Why?
I'm not in Spain.
Absolutely. Why are you?
I'm living in Osaka nowadays, and I'm maxing out the visa requirements to stay as long as I can, and I'm racing almost the entire winter, the whole cyclocross season in Japan this year.
That's super nice. That's exactly what we're gonna talk today with Gosse because we're gonna go into some details. But yeah, you have actually this amazing idea of basically shifting the focus of your cyclocross season not in Europe as you were used to do, but actually doing it in Japan, and super exciting actually to see why this happened and actually how is going. Because I mean, for me, cyclocross, of course, and this is the idea that we all have in mind, right? Cyclocross is coming from Belgium, mostly the Netherlands, and you're actually Dutch. But actually, if a Dutch cyclocross professional cyclist decided to go to Japan, it means that the scene, the landscape, the community there is also super good, right?
I can only confirm that, and that's absolutely true. There are some very big differences, of course, as well towards racing in the classical cyclocross focused countries in Europe. But yeah, for me here, Japan is awesome. I was here last year for the first time for a few races, and yeah, I had such a good time, and a very unique opportunity opened up for me through a Japanese company, and I decided to go back. But we go into that a bit deeper in the coming hour, 1.5 hour, maybe another 2 episodes. Who
Maybe a
knows?
6, 7 episode. Maybe we're gonna sit here. I mean, just for your kind of putting everything into context, people. It's 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m. of 29th of January. But in Japan, at the time, I think that more or less it's 5. No, it's 6:30, isn't it?
6:30.
In the
Yes,
afternoon.
six
That's
thirty in the
perfect.
yeah.
And well, I would love to start actually, if I can, because not everybody probably had the privilege of hearing the first couple of episodes with you. But can you give us kind of a, I don't know, a short version of who is Gosse?
Boo! Yes,
I'm gonna
introducing
I'm gonna
yourself is
time
always
box you. I'm gonna give you 3 minutes.
yeah, okay. So introducing yourself can always be a little bit hard, but yeah, my name is Gosse van der Meer. Right now, I'm 29 years old. The first podcast we did, I was still a bit younger, but yeah, I still race cyclocross professionally now for the 11th season, and yeah, I race all over the world, not only cyclocross, also a lot of mountain bike races, and yeah, I decided to make my career one big adventure, and yeah, I don't like to do the same races many times again. So if you ride the Dutch Belgian scene and you're a professional for more than a decade, some races you've done 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 10 times, and yeah, for me that's not super interesting. And I raced all over the world, so did the whole season in the US once. Raced the whole season in the Czech Republic, all the Swiss races, a lot in France. One time I did the whole season in the UK. Right now, actually, I've raced in the most different countries in the world in cyclocross. It's like I've not applied for the Guinness World Record, but yeah, right now I'm very high on the top, and right now I'm in Japan and racing the whole season here, and life is very good, and yeah, the search for adventure continues.
Absolutely. Also, there to give you people a bit of context. Basically, I saw Gosse the first time. It was the good old times when the World Cup was actually coming to Bern here in Switzerland.
Oh yeah.
So it was 2018, 2019. I don't remember, one of those years. It was the last time that Bern was actually hosting a cyclocross World Cup. And then I saw you there, and then I sent you a message. I think I gave you also a couple of high five at the end of your race. I sent you a message, said, you want to come over? I think that actually you can give a different perspective on cyclocross on the BroomWagon. And you said yes straight away. And you gave us actually a lot of different perspective, not only on the cyclocross, but on a lot of things. And then we stayed in touch, right? I mean, we have friends in common around some of the people that you talk, and actually your sponsor, Hunt, mostly, that also actually supports this mini series. And we met a couple of times at bicycle events and everything related to that. And I kept on following your adventure. You were mentioning actually the cyclocross in UK, but also some mountain bike races. We were talking before of records about your Cape Epic, and I always loved this approach that you always add. Let's try to do something new. Let's try to do something interesting year over year, because I mean, it's nice and it's not gonna come being repetitive and everything. But your focus, if I can ask you that, your focus has always been cyclocross, right? Or
Yeah, so of course I've been on the World Cup circuit for many years, and also yeah, on the normal Belgian, Dutch UCI TV races circuit for many years, and then of course your focus has to be 200% on that. The level is just too high to
yeah,
keep doing different things if you're not Mathieu van der Poel or Wout van Aert, which
yes, they can pop
most of
there.
us, yeah, they just come, do some races, win some races, leave again. But basically, for all the others out there, like all the others of us, we have to focus 200% on that. But yeah, for me, it was often also in the summer a little bit hard to keep that focus all the way, because I just love bike racing, and yeah, for me, the mountain biking, especially the stage races. Yeah, it's also quite a big adventure. And as you mentioned, I did the Cape Epic. I did many stage races in Italy. Also the Transalp, I think I did 4 or 5 times.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, of course, for me, as I mentioned a few times, I love the adventure, but still, for me, it's the sportive aspect which is really important. And that's why, of course, if I go to a race, I try to win the race. I don't go to a race to join or to do the race. If I go, I want to win. And with that focus, I'm also, like, of course, at every race. And with that, I'm traveling so much. But as soon as I cross the finish line, then of course I'm also in a more adventure approach and look around and meeting people and going on little, yeah, road trips inside the countries. But of course, like, your focus has to be until crossing the line. And I remember when I was in the national team with the under 23s. Yeah, of course, with guys like, no, yeah, Mathieu van der Poel is my age, and Joris Nieuwenhuis, and with all those riders. And our bondscoach back then was Johan Lammers. He won, I think he won Paris-Roubaix or Flanders, one of the two, many years ago. And he always told us, boys, as soon as you cross the finish line, preparation for the next race start.
Okay.
And I've done that for many years. Also, you need that approach and that focus to get on the top level. And in those years, I also managed to win a bunch of UCI
Mm-hmm.
races. But then now, of course, now I'm a little bit older. Perspectives change, and then if you look back, you think like, how much did how much did I enjoy? Because as soon as you cross the finish line, the preparation for the next race starts. But do you allow yourself to explore and also enjoy the places you are, or do you straight away put your focus on recovery, shake, shower, easy spin, back in the bus, back home? And yeah, as my perspective always was very interested in the world, as I studied geography at the university, so
Yeah.
I potentially look with a little bit different eyes to the world around me than many of my colleagues do in the cycling world. So when I was then racing in China or racing in other countries, I saw a lot of things that I was that I heard about in lectures during the week at the university, I could see with my own eyes. And I think maybe one of the coolest things, and it's a bit strange maybe to say it as a cool thing, but as a geography student, you learn a lot about how the earth works and about natural disasters and about earthquakes. Well, I'm from the Netherlands, where naturally occurred earthquakes don't happen that often, and for sure not very heavy ones. We learn a lot about that, how it works, how everything around it comes together. And a while ago, I experienced my first ever earthquake in Japan.
Of course, I mean there
And
is
for
difference, right?
yeah, and for me it was super exciting, but for all the people around me, it was like business as usual. Like th- some of them, they didn't even notice that I was like blown away with the feeling and what all was happening. And even though the earthquake happened 400 kilometers away and was a medium heavy one, but still, like, the lights were swinging a little bit. and
Oof.
and I was sitting at my desk. I was like, is this like table falling over? Is there a train passing the house? What's going on? But there's no railroad. There's no trucks that can pass, and there's no sound, so you don't hear the sound of a train passing, but you feel. And it just felt like the whole house was falling off a cliff, and that was a very strange feeling. But for years, you study about it, and then I can experience it myself. So with that perspective, I've also always enjoyed and aimed at my cycling career.
Exactly, that's what I wanted to ask you, and then we're gonna go probably a bit deeper into the Japan part. But what was the motor for you, the goal, I mean, something like the push that brought you to race in cyclocross in so many
Mm.
different countries? You were mentioning before, usually when you are into the, I would say, World Cup kind of circuit and you're
Hmm.
racing actually cyclocross for the winter, most of the time you race in Belgium, the Netherlands, now actually because it expanded a bit in Europe, and for
Hmm.
some seasons also you go to the US, but was not always like you for you. I mean, always like this for you. You were actually going. You were mentioning a full season in France, a full season in UK, a full season in US. You raced
Hmm.
in China. Now you're in Japan. What was actually the push for you of doing that?
Yeah, so of course, I think it's also really, really good for a lot of people who listen to the podcast to understand as well. Like, to be able to do this is, I also rely on a lot of invitations from organizers to
Hmm.
be able to come to these countries, to come to these races, and of course to become in a position to be invited to join certain races. Of course, you need to build up some kind of credit, some name. Basically, long story short, you need to win a bunch of races. So,
Yeah.
and of course, in the beginning of my years, I've done that a lot as well in the Belgium and national and the Dutch. I was in the under 23s, like third on the Koppenberg cyclocross. I was also once on the podium of the national championship cyclocross in the Netherlands, which is substantially harder to do than in many other countries. And
Absolutely.
I won a bunch of UCI races as well in Europe, and that also opens up a lot of doors elsewhere in the world. And yeah, then at one point, of course, I look at my salary slips as well, and I got the opportunity to, how to say, don't want to say break out of the normal team routines of signing a contract with a team. You get a list of races, do that, and that's basically it. And yeah, I got the opportunity through Hunt, through Bump Track, and a lot of brands that have kind of like a very, how to say, don't want to say free spirit, but they're like a bit more open minded when it comes to the approach to racing. And yeah, also with my sponsors back then when I started, I was able to discuss this and also ask them like, hey, what's for you guys the most important thing to do? Because yeah, I was on the World Cup circuit, yeah, that was cool, but I was not on the TV. Like, I
Hmm.
was on the TV if you look with the microscope in the
Yeah.
first 5 seconds, and that's it. So, and then also with my sponsors, I could get a lot more value for them to actually race in the countries which are more interest for them, for my sponsors, so to say. And then while I'm in these countries, I also I want to approach it as well. This is like, I'm an ambassador of the sport, so not necessarily I come here for myself, but I love cyclocross. And yeah, for a lot of people, they think like I come from the heaven of cyclocross, basically. Netherlands, Belgium, like where it's all about. And I also try to always, how to say, like, share that experience. And many times, if the race is on the Sunday, on Saturdays, I always do like or like host, so to say, like a training session. So I just
Nice.
say like at 2 o'clock at the course, we do 3, 4, 5 laps. And here in Japan, we did it last year a few times as well. And then and one time it was, I think it was like sold out in like 12 hours. I had 50 applications are sold out, so say, because I don't want to receive any money for the trainings, or if I do that the day before the race, because yeah, I'm very grateful already that I'm being invited for these
Yeah.
races. And many times the organizers organize a homestay for me. So of course, it's very expensive to travel everywhere, so you try to cut down the costs a little bit. And yeah, I don't want to receive the help, but then on the same hand, hold up my hand to the one that feeds me. So always these trainings we always do with many people and clinics. And I visit also often like distributors or bike shops who sell products of, for example, Ritchie has a lot of specialized bike shops that
Hmm.
only sell their stuff in very nice steel, and often like the nicest bike shops, and but very small. And many times if I'm in a certain country, I try to visit them, and in that sense bring a lot more value to my sponsors than only do a bike race in Japan, because yeah, it's not on the TV in the Netherlands, for example.
Yeah, of course. But it's also good because, I mean, I can, talking actually sponsorship and business in this case, I can see actually two different openings there. First of all,
Hmm.
especially now that we are, all of us, heavy dependent on social media and the image, the values, the brand values are
Hmm.
actually led through social media. I would say that actually in this way, you're really talking about a story that is different from everybody else. Of course, everybody of us is different. Everybody of us actually has his own story to say, to tell, and everything.
Hmm.
But also on the other side, on a brand perspective, for Bomb Track from Hunt, saying that actually you have somebody who you support that goes on the other side of the world to race still something that is really familiar but can be completely different, like
Hmm.
cyclocross, organizing something for the community, and doing talking about the experience there, talking about actually also the people that you are staying with and everything. It's so much more value
Hmm.
than just being, as you were saying, in the mid pack of a story that is already told. That's what I mean.
Yeah, and I think also like Hunt published recently a very nice journal article that, of course, then I try to supply them with a lot of nice photos, but not just photos of me riding a
Of
bike, because
course.
I've been doing that for more than 10 years. Like, people know how I look on a bike, and every year my jersey looks different. Well,
Hmm.
I'm still riding bikes. So more like, as you say, the story around. I send them some nice photos of my host family. I had the possibility to sleep in the temple, for example, for a night, and those are very special appearances that might never happen again. And I just say for a bike race, and via somebody's a friend of somebody who was also doing the race. His father was actually the practicing monk at the temple, not too far away from the course. Of course, we all try to cut costs here and there, and I'm not the 5-star hotel guy. So
No.
yeah, we slept on the ground in the
Nice.
temple, and then next day racing cyclocross, and then driving back home. And with that, it's I think for my sponsors, and yeah, for me personally, those are just very warm memories, because if you would ask me any results of any races, like, I have no clue. My mechanic remembers all that. He knows
Okay.
like, oh, like when we were this and this race there, and then he talks about the race like 9 years ago. Yeah, this was the weather. You had those tires. You got like sixth behind this guy. We were parked over there, and then like like 5 years ago there on that day it was quite sunny. You got 12th in that race. Like, don't ask me the results of any race like 4 months ago. Like, I have no clue.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Still talking about the tiny bits like about cyclocross. You were now talking about actually the long lasting relationship with your mechanics, right?
Hmm.
That's another thing that I see that actually in cyclocross it's really common. You really build up the people that you're working with. It's really, I mean, it seems cheesy, but it's really a family. You're really working with them every time. You're really going with there
Hmm.
everywhere, and that's something that probably is a tiny bit easy to do it in the continent.
Hmm.
But if you're starting racing or riding all over the place, maybe it's a bit more complex to, because I mean you need this quietness, right? This comfort,
Hmm.
because you're already off your comfort zone while you're riding in the mud or in technical terrains and stuff. So off time is good actually, and all the maintenance is good to be actually in the comfort zone. You know that everything is taken care of. But when you're starting riding your bike and racing your bike in the US this year, and then in China, and then here, and then there, it's maybe a bit more complex. How does it work for you on that?
Yeah, so I'm lucky that I'm also very handy with the tools myself. So of
Hmm.
course I do all the maintenance myself as well. And as you pointed out, like the relationship with the mechanic is very important. And I've been traveling for yeah, as I said, more than a decade together with Jelle, my mechanic.
Yeah.
And basically from September until February, we were every weekend from Thursday to Monday we were traveling together all over Europe, and then raced in Czech Republic on a Saturday and in France on a Sunday, and
Hmm.
like crazy travel schedules. But yeah, and we at one point we didn't even talk with each other anymore. We made a bit of a sign language because at some of the races it's very, very busy, as you notice at the World Cups. You cannot communicate with each other,
Yeah.
and you cannot scream or yell. So I always had like some kind of like thing with my hand, so we knew exactly tire pressure and this
Yeah.
and this and this. You grow very close. But yeah, over the years I learned many tricks as well with my own bicycles. And for example, very, very, very clear example: internal cable routing. uh, I'm not. Of course, it looks very nice from the aesthetics, aerodynamics, all that stuff. But for a guy like me who travels so much and has to rely on his own hands, but also, luckily in Japan at many races, I have the same mechanic all the
Oh,
time.
that's
But
nice.
also, but also sometimes that changes a little bit, and therefore you want to have your bikes like as simple as possible, so to say. And clear example, I have my front brake cables all mounted on the outside. Might not look the best, but I never pull them through the fork. They're just with like two zip ties and some tape on the outside of my fork, because then very easy in and out the airplane. I have one of these big EFOC bags, like the XL version,
Yeah.
so I can put two bicycles in there
Wow.
actually. If I pull my forks out, I have size 52, not very big ones,
Hmm.
so I can pull forks out, put two next to each other in, and both size one wheel set. Just fits, barely fits.
Okay.
And then, but then, for example, like as soon as I land, it takes me now to unpack the big bag maybe 20 minutes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that's building up two complete bikes. But yeah, other tips, for example, I changed every bolt on my bicycle. They're all M4.
Okay,
So I
it makes
literally want,
sense. So
yeah, one tool
you do
for the whole
everything.
bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also, which is very, very important, is have your bikes ready for the race.
Exactly. It's not that actually you need to unpack your bag. You need to have your bag unpacked and two full bicycle functional in 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, and also if I come to a race and somebody helps me in the tech zone, or sometimes I come somewhere I don't even know who's going to stand for me in the tech zone in the afternoon. But yeah, luckily I race in Japan now for so long, so you meet a
Yeah.
lot of people, and then I always look like who's at the amateur races before and who are a bit in the front, so they often know a little bit how it works really well, and they take it more serious. So they also take it more serious in the tech zone. But then it's my responsibility that bike is standing perfectly ready. All tires right pressure, spare tires right pressure, pedals are all set, everything is charged, everything is ready to go. So if somebody comes to my car to pick my bike up to go to the tech zone, he doesn't have to do anything. Just take the bike, stand ready in the tech zone. No wrenching, no nothing.
Hmm.
Of course, if I crash or something breaks, then he has to repair it. But that's those are things like I try to rely as little as possible on other people
Makes sense.
at those events to have your own. Of course, takes more responsibility for yourself, more effort, more energy. But then I know it's good, it's standing ready, and I also ask as little as I can from other people.
That's really the life of a privateer, isn't it?
Uh, and
It
it's many of those small tricks, and of course you learn that over the years.
That's really, really fascinating, Gosse. It's really nice to see actually what could go in these directions. But now I think we have to really kick off the big topic.
Okay.
At a certain point, last year, you ended up, I mean, as you were explaining us, with for an invitation because of how you are doing things for
Hmm.
riding your bike cyclocross in Japan. How did it happen? And then how came the decision for you to come over this year instead of just for 1 month, but for the full season?
Okay, so last year was my first time ever racing in Japan, and of course, for many years I saw many beautiful photos from Japanese races. Coming over to Europe, I see like, oh, this looks really nice, but often in the planning, the races didn't fit so well. They were clashing often with the World Cup in Gosse and some other World Cup races in Europe. And the thing is, also with the World Cups, like once you're in it, you get a lot of UCI points. So you kind of like are obligated to keep doing those World Cups to not lose your spot in the ranking, especially if you're from the Netherlands, where there's
Yes.
many fast guys, so you need very high in the ranking. Now, and then I think 2 years ago, once I had an injury, missed a whole bunch of races, dropped out of the UCI top 40 or so, and then it's very hard to crawl back in through C2, C1 races elsewhere. And then I was like, let me check out other places. And then people from Japan reached out to me again, like, hey, Gosse, would you be interested in joining our race? Like, as I said earlier before, so for me, those invitations are really important to also decide a program on. But there was only one C2 race. So I told him, like, yeah, well, it would be nice, but that's a lot of flying for 1 hour cycling. And then went a little bit back and forth, and they say, actually, okay, well, maybe if you want, you can do some more races here, but they're not UCI races, but then you can stay for 3 or 4 weeks. So I ended up staying for 4 weeks for a race for weekends, and that was absolutely awesome. And of course, then there is a substantial level difference here than it is in Europe. So I managed to get really nice results. I think I won half the races, and the other half I was basically always on the podium.
Okay.
Which was very nice and very nice experience. And then through that I went back home again. But people in Japan were also very enthusiastic that I was racing there. I was very enthusiastic to be racing there. And because I was living in Osaka, so I posted some photos, and it was a photo of me eating specific kind of cookies. They're called crickets. And long story short, from a photo on Twitter is very popular in Japan.
Yeah.
So from a photo on Twitter, I ended up with a sponsored contract from Maeda Seiga, a very famous Japanese cookie company, especially close to around Osaka.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can, and you live in Switzerland, you can compare it with Kumbli.
Yes.
So, and then Maeda Seiga is a very, very old family company. So I think right now Mr. Maeda, the current boss, I think he's the fourth generation or maybe fifth. Don't please fact check this left or right.
No, I'm not gonna quote you on that, but I can understand. It's has a lot of heritage, basically.
Yeah, and then long story short, there's this me as this Dutch guy would like to come back to Japan, and then I had the offer from this iconic Japanese brand from this area of Osaka, and 1 and 1 was 2, and I was like, well, what's the maximum I can stay here with regards to visas and races, and make a plan. And we made really nice clothes with really big, also the cookie company logo on there.
I love your kit, by the way. Sorry if I interrupt you, but I love your kit. I love the color of your bike. I think that actually it's incredible. It's so nice.
Yeah, we put a lot of effort in that. Actually, the kit is designed from the designer who designs the bump track bicycles.
No way,
So
nice.
bump track always had super awesome designs, and see it in the kit. But this company is very, very popular and very famous by let's say a bit more elderly people. And for example, many years ago, I think in the 60s or the 70s, there was once a comedian on the Japanese national TV who made a joke, and they used the name of the cookie company in the joke. So actually, during all the races, a lot of people are yelling at me, "Atari Meda no cracker." And cracker are the cookies they make, are one of the cookies. They have a very, very lot of options. And Atari Meda, that's the name of the cookie brand. But if I'm correct, Atari Meda no means something like everything is good.
Okay.
If I'm, maybe the Japanese listeners can change that. And then nowadays, also sometimes if I go training or while I'm training, I visit a castle or a dam or a shrine, then many elderly Japanese people recognize the Maeda Seika, the cookie company, and they're always very surprised. They're like, "Whoa, hey, we see that because we only knew it from the TV in the '70s." And then many times, all Japanese people start talking to me. Of course, I don't speak Japanese, and nowadays they focus also a little bit more on like the sports nutrition, and they make very nice protein cookies.
Okay.
Small, like they come in a pack of 5, and they're actually really nice. And yeah, they ended up making a really nice deal, and I race almost all the races here in the Kansai area, where Osaka is based off, and where the cookie brand is also the most famous, so to say. And yeah, so far as you said, like the kit has been very very popular, and
Absolutely.
Japanese people have been very very happy also to see me back. And now with the Maeda Seika, it's also Japanese media has picked it up really nice. So yeah, all over Japan seems to be the story out that there's a Dutch guy riding for a Japanese cookie company in the cyclocross races here.
No, that's incredible. That's super super nice. So everything then happened because you got an invitation last year and you came over and then you ate a
Mhm.
cookie. And then that's how all the season of 2024 2025 was set up.
Yeah, well, yeah. Long story short, yes.
I love it. I mean, you know why I love this kind of thing? Because actually, you are the kind of person, as I see you and as I know you, that is not there to shy away on situations or in opportunities, right?
Yeah.
You are just in a place, you are just doing a lot of things, talking with a lot of people, getting really tight into the community, and then for sure, when you're doing these kind of things will happen. I won't
Mhm.
say automatically, but mostly naturally, and that's incredible. That's super nice.
Yeah, but as you said, like if you don't position yourself in the community and be open and communicative and thinking with other people, and yeah, sometimes making crazy plans, but also then it's really maybe the most important thing is like if there is a crazy plan, you have to just go for it. And yeah, then we made super nice kit. We have custom painted bicycles through Gosse, like the Japanese single speed champion. He has a car garage, and that's why you might see on the social media. I drive the small little black K van. It's
Yes,
called
yes,
like the
yes,
Japanese minivan.
yes. I love
Well,
it.
660 cc's under the hood, and it's actually the engine is not under the hood, but the engine is placed below the driver's seat, so you're actually
Okay.
sitting on top of the engine. Top speed 92 kilometers per hour, but
Still?
then also all these stickers, for example, on the sides, and I have a sticker plotter at home. So, well, I made the design, and then while I was sitting in Europe, I was then contacting Gosse all the time, like, "Hey, can you measure the windows and the sides of the car?" So we made whole measurements and made all the stickers and also all those things. I make at home myself. I took a giant roll of stickers in my bag, and then first few days I got here in Japan, we stickered the whole van here. It's all a bit DIY style as well, but in the end it looks very very nice. And also at all the events, as soon as I roll up in the little black van, it's like many times they make a special parking place for me. Very, they have
Nice.
like fenced off, and then I back in there, and yeah, I think that's really nice. But yeah, it's also a part you have to put yourself in the community, and a lot of people forget often that you have to invest first. And many people they first want to, and especially you see it now more and more with young riders also. Through my sponsors, many times I get asked like, "Hey, do you know this guy? Hey, do you know this rider?
Hmm.
Hey, do you know this?" And then sometimes if I get an email forward, or if I see in what way they're asking for support, sponsoring, but also the amounts, or the amounts of bikes they need, then I'm like, this guy's never won a single bike race in his life. Like, why is he asking for so much? And I think also in that perception it's changing a lot with younger riders. And
Man, you're 29.
yeah, but I've always approached it, of course, a little bit different. And yeah, you first have to give before you receive. And I think it's always very important to give without the intention to receive. And that's something that has brought me really far in my career as well. And with many events also, like I've not been to China only one time, so I've been there like 5 or 6 times. And
Wow.
even without the bicycle, if I want to come back, I can come back anytime to to the people there, and also the companies, so the sponsor organizers I've met over the years, and the same here in Japan. And yeah, I even, as I'm saying, I said I live with families, so I've, as I say, homestay. And and also one of the families I live with a lot is the Matsui family. They lived in the Netherlands for 3 years. He
Nice.
works for Shimano,
Oh,
so in
yes.
Shimano Japan and Shimano Europe. So he was expat in and they have three boys. They're
Nice.
5, 8, and 9 years old. And then also for those boys, I speak English with them a lot. And then of course you speak very slow, and I speak a little bit basic, and then we say yes and no, and how was school, and what did you do at school. So we practice a lot. And also for those kids in those families, it's very helpful. And even the big owner of the cookie company, he asked me like, oh, please, Gosse, would you also stay with my family for a few days? And then I stayed I stayed in the home of my sponsor, and also spend a lot of time with him and his family, and talk with his kids, and kind of like experience in that way. Because, for example, a lot of like Japan is an island, and
It is.
Japan has a lot of people, but not very many people actually get off the island. So
Yeah.
especially for those kids to get a bit more familiar with foreigners, or being obligated to speak English, because I speak zero Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
You try to communicate, and that's also, especially for those kids, many times a very valuable lesson. And I think also, yeah, through that, and being very willing and helpful with those kind of things, you yeah for your sponsors, you create not only a relationship based on marketing value that I may or may not have, but also like more personal value and connections that are very valuable, and that also for example, resulted in them already asking like, hey, Gosse, do you come back next year? Can we like set up an agreement for like X amount of races, and like renegotiate and this? And I'm not even gone yet, huh?
That's incredible. That's absolutely super cool. That's what I wanted to ask you because you were mentioning it. Actually, you're staying with families, and this is
Yeah,
super valuable. Sorry, for the family you are staying with, but it's also super valuable
but
for
for me as
you.
well.
Exactly. Tell me
Oh
more
yeah.
about that aspect because I mean, you are always, as being a super generous person, you're talking a lot about what you are giving, right? But you are also I mean, you're also invested by all these people that are there. You're
Hmm.
knowing a lot about actually the culture. This is the real way of traveling, in my opinion. Tell me
Oh
more
yeah.
about that. How do you like it?
Yeah. So basically, living for a few months now with Japanese families in their homes. As you say, that's the real way of traveling. But it's also, and I've done it in many of my racing adventures. For example, when I did the whole season in Czech Republic, I was living with the Brandizova family in Olomouc, in eastern side of Czech. I live in the US many times, also with the same families, because especially if I stay for so long in such a place. If I would be living alone in a hotel for 3 months, I would not have gone to Japan.
Yes, absolutely. I can
Like, of
imagine.
course, it's absolutely amazing here, and you can have a really nice time for 2 3 weeks if you travel and stay in some hotels. But keep in mind, like, I only travel for the races. During the week, I'm training, writing my master thesis, and also a lot of people sometimes forget. Like, when you're an athlete, you're always tired. You're either tired or hungry.
Yeah, it's
So,
true.
and then to have like a home base, and especially like a hotel room, is always a cold place,
It is.
like a hotel is, of course, it's convenient, and I've stayed in hotels also many times, but a hotel is an unpersonal space. And then I'd rather be living with a family with three screaming kids that either way are grumpy in the morning, fighting in the afternoon, or crying in the evening, than sitting alone all day, watching the walls come closer to you. And also, like, by living with these families, you experience the country on such different ways. Well, for example, visiting like local bathing houses. You have in Japan a lot of these bathing houses, like hot springs.
Yeah.
You've probably seen like the most beautiful Instagram pictures of these like hot springs, and you sit there, very nice. But there's also very many local hot springs where normally, like, I'm the only white guy you're gonna see there,
Hmm.
but I can also only go there because I go with the other people. So to say, they take me in, because also nobody speaks English. many times they're very hard to find if you don't know where they
Yeah.
are. And yeah, so to say, as an outsider, it's maybe not so easy to come in. And then they're not luxurious. They look like they're like from the 50s. Uh, but the water is hot, the water is cold, and that's all you need. And those kind of experience are very, very, very nice, which you never get if you just come as a tourist and visit the famous spots, so to say. And especially also with the races, sometimes these races are like, yeah, not the most famous places, but yeah, I get to travel all over the country, and also at the races meet many people. And also sometimes at the races have homestays, or everybody knows people there, and there, because
Yeah.
Japanese people are very inviting.
Hmm.
So we everybody has like, oh well, my uncle lives like 20 minutes away from that race, and then we're staying with an uncle from somebody who races for a team but doesn't even do the race himself. But then you just travel with two other guys to a race, sleep at somebody's uncle from a guy who doesn't do the race. Do you still follow it?
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's perfect. You actually were talking about racing. How is racing in Japan? Racing cyclocross in Japan. How is it? How is the racing scene there?
It's very big.
Hmm.
It's very, very, very big. And I would say it's a lot bigger than in the Netherlands,
Oh
and
wow.
also probably a lot bigger than in Belgium. But a thing that's very, very different is the approach to the sport. And so in the Netherlands and Belgium, it's very much like I'd say like a publicity sport.
Hmm.
And you see thousands of spectators drinking for thousands of euros of beer at the races, but there's not so many riders.
Yeah.
And we seen the shift as well. I think it's in the Super Prestige where they skipped all the under 23 races just for the first 10-second TV shot, because some of the elite races had less than 20 riders on the start. So then they put the under 23s and the elites together, so there's still 50 riders on the start. But it's very, very focused on the TV and the spectators that come to the race, not so much on the riders themselves. But here in Japan, the cyclocross is very much like a how you say, like participation driven sport.
Yeah.
And for example, Sakai, it's Osaka, of course, one big city, and then it gets bigger, and like some smaller cities agglomerate in it. So Sakai is, for example, a city inside Osaka, and that's also where my sponsor is based. And there's also Sakai City Cyclocross. That was for me one of the main races, because for my sponsor also very important. But 850 people at the start. Eh?
Oh. Oh.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like every weekend in Japan, there's like three, four, five, sometimes six races a weekend.
Oh. Okay.
And then, of course, the scene is not everywhere as big, especially here in the Kansai area around Osaka. It's very big, but if you drive 2.5 hours north, you're in the Tokai area, where there's also a very big cyclocross scene. If you drive 6 hours north, you're in Tokyo, where there's also a very big cyclocross scene. If you drive 4 hours south, there's also a very big cyclocross scene.
Okay. So basically, I mean, it's more regionally based
Yeah.
than national based.
On hand, they have the national series, the GCX, the Japan Cyclocross Cup, and what the federation also tries to do is like uh, honor these local regions and local series as well, and they give them also like one or two GCX races every year. So if you say like if you're a national level cyclocross racer, be prepared to travel very far,
Of
because
course.
Japan is a very big country. But then you have two GCX races in Tokyo, you have two GCX races in Hiroshima. Well, it's 15 hours driving
Okay.
for a, and of course, like if there's so many races, you're not gonna drive 15 hours to a G6 race if you can do another race 1 hour away. So with that, there's like you have very little riders who are very dedicated to all those G6 races, because it's just too much traveling. And
Okay.
travel in Japan, as many things are very cheap here, and the gas is also very cheap, like the fuel, but the tolls for the roads are very, very expensive.
Okay.
So that often, for example, for me to drive to Osaka, fuel wise, it's maybe from Osaka to Tokyo, fuel wise, maybe $50, but taxes wise, maybe $200 for the
Ah,
highway.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So of course, and here in Japan in the races you make zero euros or yen, also 0 yen. There's no prize money, no start money, no nothing of that. So then it's all very much hobby. And then if you, yeah, have very high cost, you're not very keen on going to all those races. But here in especially Osaka, the area around the city is very well suited for cycling. That's of course why there's a lot of cyclists here. Plus Shimano headquarters, founding grounds,
Absolutely.
Osaka.
Yeah.
So keep like there's thousands of people working for Shimano who also all really like to ride bikes. So it's very big here in that sense. And yeah, those Kansai cyclocross series are very big. And then yeah, last weekend I was in the Tokai cyclocross in the other series,
Yes.
much smaller region, 450 guys at the start.
But that's incredible. I mean, we're talking about really different numbers from Europe. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
But and for me, what is the coolest thing to see, especially like at those kids races, very a lot of kids, and like the how do you say, like the mid level, like my age people,
Mm-hmm.
there's not so many. Of
Okay.
course, because in Japan it's very work ethic is very important, 6 days a week working.
Yeah.
But it seems like as soon as they all retire, cyclocross.
They start racing again. So cyclocross is really that big there. So it's the branch of
Yeah.
cycling that is really, I mean, it's really a spotlight.
Yeah, and those master races, like they're always early in the morning. So then if we come to the race, the masters are about to start. 140 masters at the start, and then you see guys like 60, 70, sometimes 80 years old
Is wow.
struggling on the cyclocross bike, and they're fanatic. The guys in the front are very fanatic,
Okay.
which is for me it's really fun to see. And but I remember also like when I did the UCI race here, I think in the elites there were also like 140 guys at the start. Like the only thing in my mind is like don't crash in the first corner.
Yes, yes. Otherwise, everybody's piled up.
Yeah, plus you lose so many spots, you have
Of
to
course.
overtake everybody back. So it's like you gotta ride really smart, but many races are very fast.
Okay.
So far it's been very fast, like grass criterium races, and depends a bit on where you are, but also Japanese races are sometimes have very small laps.
Ah, okay. So that's another different, actually, difference
Yeah,
technically.
yeah. And Japanese people don't like to ride straight. So it's the straights are often very short,
Yes.
and it has like 1 million corners, and that makes it sometimes very hard, and also yeah, many laps also kind of like have a top speed because you cannot go faster in the corners before you fall down. And yeah, the guys in the front, they're all pretty good riders, so they all ride the same top speed. So
Okay.
then it's really comes down to small mistakes which you don't want to make. And but for the rest, also the riders together are super friendly with each other, which is super nice. And also in the race, there's lots of respect as well. Like sometimes if you touch your shoulder with somebody or somebody cuts you off in the corner, everyone's like, oh, sorry, oh,
During the
this
race.
yeah. That's but also a few times like after the race, if there's like because many times there's no showers at the race,
Okay.
but there's so many of these like public bathrooms, shower rooms, hot
Hmm.
springs everywhere. So many times they're also quite close to the race. So then a few of the guys like, hey Gosse, you come with us to the onsen, to the hot springs. And then you like with the top 10 of the race, like 8 guys after the race, you sit in the hot tub in the spa afterwards, and then you shower and go home. So yeah, to be honest, it's not too bad here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how does the community look like? So we were talking about actually 450 people riding,
Yeah,
racing, actually an event, but there are also a lot of
yeah.
spectators. And you were talking about the trainings the day before. Are people, amateur hobby cyclists, coming over? How many of them, and how engaged are them with all this community of cyclocross, this sport that is super big?
Well, so first of all, Japanese people love camping.
Ah, nice. That's another thing that you didn't
They
know. Okay.
Yeah, they love camping, so they love to come one day before the race, and they
Okay.
love to be early.
Okay.
They're very early, even though the race doesn't start yet. They're always extreme, but then I mean hours early.
Okay.
But also the
Okay.
engagement is very high, of course. And you should not expect spectators to come there that don't do the race or don't have like a partner relation or whatever. competing in the race. There's not people going there like, oh, I'm going to watch a cyclocross race and drink 25 glasses of beer today. I go
No.
there.
If they go there,
That
they are really involved in one way or the other, directly or indirectly.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So they either have raced in the morning, or they stand in the tech zone for somebody, or they are the judges, or they have a stand of some kind of cycling brand or anything. Because all the races have a small expo as well, with
Nice.
and some food trucks and all that. So and the vibe is just very very mellow, and everybody's super friendly with each other. So that's. But of course, for spectators, it's not crazy numbers, but. Yeah, for example, then 2 weeks ago, Sakai Cyclocross, 850 participants. Then of course spectators, like, they're also going to be there from, they have watched the race, or they wait for the elite race to start to see, like, oh, hey, those guys are jumping the barriers to see how fast it goes. And then because of course the level differences is also very high if there's 150 guys at the start.
Hmm.
But it's just, yeah, for me it's really nice. And there's no drinking at the races,
Okay.
as of course, as we see and know from Belgium. And also, like, over the years, it's gotten a bit more. And to me, there was also always something I didn't really like so much. It's like the spectating has changed a lot in the last few years, because before everybody always just like cheered for everybody, and if you didn't like somebody, you just shut up. You
Yeah.
don't say
Yeah. Yeah.
anything. And nowadays there's a lot of like anti-support. So if you don't like somebody, you yell boo and scream and swear at them. And of course, we've seen more incidents with throwing stuff at riders, touching
Absolutely.
them. So like the anti-supporting is a bit on the rise, which is, yeah, very annoying.
Yeah.
But in Japan, like, they just support for everybody, and also like very 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 fanatic. And yeah, like, of course China is not so far away, so it's also very easy to order like cheap, how to say, like commercial goods, like promotion
Of
materials.
course.
And well, you've probably seen the like those bells at the cyclocross races.
Yes.
Well, there's hundreds of them here.
Okay.
And that's literally like the go-to like promotion gift, but that's also the go-to like sporting device that a lot of people bring. So that makes a lot of noise, even though not so many people are actually at the race. So you'll hear that all the time. And yeah, and the support is just very frenetic as well. And yeah, of course, I'm very grateful to be able to also race in the front of all these races. Then of course, sport is always a little bit higher. And yeah, I think also for the Japanese people, they really like to see a foreign guy riding for an iconic Japanese brand.
Of
And
course.
then yeah, that also, yeah, with that, I have many supporters here at the races, which is of course, yeah, very nice, and gives you extra wings during the race. And at the Sakai City, like, my sponsor was also there, and I had the feeling like at the last two laps he couldn't even breathe anymore from so much he was screaming and supporting. So that was very nice to see how much everybody is involved in everything. And that's, yeah, to me, it's a very very different approach. And of course, all those years when you race in Belgium, there's like 50 guys fighting for five open contract spots,
Yeah.
and that's like, if you don't push somebody in the fences, like, he might get the contract you're looking for
Ah,
next
yeah.
year, and you have to find a normal job. And and that approach is absolutely not happening here in Japan. And that's for me really nice. And also, in the last few years in the races, I had some accidents as well, met with crashes, then, so to say, many times in the first lap, or a place where you think like, why? And then, like, 80 or 90% of the crashes were like somebody else's fault. It's
Mm.
like, basically, like, you're on a big pile up, or somebody takes out six riders and he takes you with them, and stuff like that almost doesn't happen here in Japan. Like, there's a lot of respect in the races, and to me, that I really like. But on the other hand, I think I was very very surprised of at the beginning, especially when I first came here. Japanese people are yeah, like, I don't want to sound mean, but for them 1 hour is very long.
Okay. Okay. So the
So
span
they're
of attention, that's what you mean, is a bit
no
shorter.
no no no. So they're really 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 fast in the first lap or the first two
Ah,
laps.
for racers, you mean? Yeah. Okay. I got
Yeah,
it.
and then they're all dead.
Okay. They burn their matches straight.
straight from the start,
Okay.
and maximum 2 laps. So
Okay.
that's for 90% of the riders, so to say. And because I remember the first few races I did there, like the first one I did had a super good start, and I was like, I don't know, place 10 or something, and I was like, shit, everybody's fast here. And but then after 2 laps, everybody is not fast anymore.
Okay.
So it's normally in the races, I'm also not really stressed out in the beginning. If I'm not straight in the front, so to say, because like in the last 2 3 laps, like I after so many years, you have that engine to know like, oh, it's 1 hour to pace, to know what to do, what not to do. And but of course, as I said, like it's always the same guys here in the front of the races. They can do, and they have really nice racing level as well. But as soon as, oh yeah, and one other thing is, of course, years and years in Europe is like years and years of riding in the mud.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. How is actually the surface situation? There's so much mud like here, or
No,
ice, or snow, or nothing.
this season I've done every race on file treads.
Oh, okay.
It's just like I've swapped the bike 2 times, and there was one time for a flat tire, and one time because I went down in a corner and bended my derailleur. It's just very, very, very fast. And last year I did some money races, which was very nice. And also I've seen many, yeah, in recent years when I was not in Japan, seen quite some photos of like snowy races and really nice conditions. Unfortunately, so far it's not been that way. Also, as I said, I race a lot around Osaka,
Mm-hmm.
and here's not so much snow.
Okay.
So
The weather is
that's
milder down there.
it's cold. So I'm training here now every day, and it's like 3 to 4 degrees when I'm
Okay,
riding
still.
up in the mountains. But it's completely clear. So, but if you go, yeah, a bit more north towards Nagano, last year was Noto Cross. That was like 20 centimeters of snow,
Okay, okay. Better for
and then they canceled the
photos.
race.
Exactly. Better for photos, not super good for racing, maybe.
Yeah. Then you really need some people in the tech zone, and then also, of course, yeah. Then the days after the race, it's a lot of work and everything. And now it does make my life here in Japan a lot easier. That despite the races not being my preferred conditions, but it's always a trade-off, right? And would you like to ride in sunny weather all week, and then also, yeah, have the downside of racing fast grass criteriums in the weekend? Would you like to train in the rain every day, but be able to do muddy races in the weekend? It's this
Yeah,
is it.
of course, of course. Is a balance. Absolutely. Do you have a highlight for me? In terms of racing, in terms of experience, in terms of you decide what, and actually you know actually the broom wagon, so you can decide also according to that. What highlight would you tell me?
Yeah. I think for me, like a very big highlight is been like the support I receive at all the races so far, like from all the spectators, and then not necessarily like just say like, oh, this race most people yelled my name, because it's like, also if I'm not racing in Osaka, many people support for me, or everybody wants to, Japanese people always want to take photos. Everybody wants to take a photo with me, and other than in Belgium when it happened is the way how people approach you. So they will wait just as long as if you stop talking with somebody, or if you finish what you're doing, then come to you. If they very polite, maybe they take a photo with you. If it fits, they can also come back after the race, no problem. And it's very different than when you're in Belgium. It's like, hey, got a photo, hey, got a photo, hey, got a photo card, this. And here in Japan, they're very, very calm. And then I also like to take more of the time, like, hey, oh, thanks for the support, because of course there's always this language barrier which you
Mm,
try to make it work. But for me, those are very, very nice highlights to, yeah, apparently I can make a lot of people happy by doing what I love to do here.
absolutely.
And yeah, that's actually for me really maybe the biggest highlight.
That's awesome. I want to talk quickly about snacks. I mean, you were actually mentioning that one
Yeah.
of the main sponsors of your trip in Japan is a cookie sponsor. But I mean,
Yeah, it's
here you go. I love the logo, by the way. I really love the logo with the horse. It's lovely.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, all of us, everybody know that in Japan, snacks are just incredible. What's your go-to before the race and after the race?
I eat a lot of nigitoro, which is snacks, whatever how you're going to call it. So like sushi,
Hmm.
and nigitoro is you can maybe compare it a little bit with like ground beef,
Hmm.
but then tuna, and then it's like because it's not shredded. Apparently, it's not shredded.
Okay.
It's like a lot of like pieces of leftover tuna, and they cut really thin, and then they hit. So they hit flat all the time, and
Yes.
then you get some kind of like very grounded ground beef substantia, and then with a little bit of spring onions. So
Uh-huh.
it's basically that Nitoro meat with a little bit of spring onions, sushi rice, and then the seaweed around, and that's what
Nice.
I really love. So I eat, but my go to before the races, I eat. I always have like a bit of a set ritual. Luckily, here the races often start at 1 o'clock, so I eat a lot of oatmeal in the morning. Oatmeal is not very popular in Japan, so
Okay.
when I came here, I ordered I think 10 kilos of oatmeal on Amazon
Okay.
because many times you cannot find it in the supermarket. So
Okay.
I always eat the oatmeal with soya milk, some raisins, some maple syrup, and maybe sometimes like some chocolate sprinkles or like some cocos flakes or something with that. That's always my breakfast with 1 or 2 coffees, and then I tend to not eat too much. Depends a bit on the time of the race. Then I eat like maybe let's say 150 grams of these nigitoros
Okay.
around like 3 hours before the race. And then 1 hour before the race, I always eat one banana.
Okay. Perfect.
That's, I've done that for so many years. Just eat one banana. And then, then you start rolling up. I often take like a caffeine gel. And then, after race. And of course, I try to drink a lot, like electrolytes. I take a lot of Martin, which is also very high in carbohydrates already, to
Yeah.
kind of like fuel the body up. But I don't like to have a super full stomach. So
Of
that's
course.
and then after the race, I eat, of course, the Maida Seika protein cookies,
Of
50
course.
grams proteins per 5 cookies, very important.
Yes.
And then I like to eat those Nigitoro rolls as well.
Okay, okay, okay. No, yes, that's super nice. But are they actually focused as well into cycling, or they just actually your connection with cycling started because they you were eating this cookie on the social media?
Yeah, and the owner loves cycling.
Okay, that's the reason,
So
right?
so so yeah, the current boss absolutely loves cycling
He
and
cycles as well. He rides the
and
bike, or he participates to any of
yeah,
your
yeah,
races. Okay.
track. He does track.
Ah, of course. I
So
mean, it's
it's
the other thing, right? I mean, the yeah.
very important in Japan, and he mainly does 500 meter and a 1 kilometer time trial.
Okay.
But and they sponsor as well the local racing scene here, the series a little bit, and but yeah, from how to say, like from the history, there's not a set connection with cycling or any of that, and only in I think since 1 or 2 years they focus a little bit more on the so to say outdoor, more like activity cookies, but they make really how to say, because like the range of products they have is very wide,
Mm.
so lot of really nice cookies, but not necessarily that you can buy all of them in the supermarket. So the two types of cookies which are very famous and which you can find in many supermarkets here around Osaka is the crickets. It's just like a small. We know them as Maria cookies. You
Mm-hmm.
know the small biscuits,
Yes.
but then in like a small round shape, let's say 1 centimeter, 1.5 centimeter diameter, and a flat bottom.
Okay.
So it's like a circle, like a ball cut in half,
Okay.
and then they taste a little bit like these Maria cookies as we know, like just plain biscuits, so to say.
Okay. Okay.
And the other ones are the crackers, and they're just like small. They look a bit like the Ritz crackers, as you might know.
Yeah.
But they're not very cheesy.
Okay.
So
That's
they're
perfect.
Ritz, yeah, but they have that size, and they also send them and that's actually very cool. And I'm very happy I got some. They sell them in cans,
Okay.
cookies in a can, so you can open a can for because for people also here with the earthquakes and tsunamis and natural disasters have to stockpile.
Yes, yes, yes. Of course. So in
So they
case something could happen, actually, they have it in cans instead of a glass or whatever, or box that it
yeah,
doesn't conserve it.
they still stockpile crackers, but as well they sell okura crackers, for example. Those are like cookies made of not made of traditional like flour and stuff you use for cookies, but they use dried soya beans,
Okay.
for example, and it's all very very healthy, and except for the crickets and the crackers, they always keep on the 100 yen mark, so to say, which
Mm-hmm.
is around 60 euro cents for a bag. I think it's 100 gram in the bag, but a
Okay.
lot of the other cookies and mainly crackers are like really in the high segment.
Okay.
So very high quality, high quality of the ingredients as well. But with that also comes a bit of a higher price, so to say.
Absolutely.
And now
Absolutely.
that they move a bit more into like the sportive sphere of things, then it was also was also for me very lucky to meet the right people at the right time, and then do something like this together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, your season in cyclocross in Japan, what's next? So now, as I was mentioning, today is the 29th, January 29th. You're going to stay there basically until March. What is going to happen
Yeah.
in the next month, I would say?
Uh, well, I hope to do as good as I can in the last few races I'm doing here, and then in the beginning of March, I'm coming back. And then what's going to happen is I hope to have finished my master's thesis because my deadline is on the 10th of March.
Okay. So you need to be back home.
So yeah, I can send it in digitally, but like the defense, then I have to go wear a suit and
Of
defend it.
course.
That's at the end of March roughly. So then I need to be back, and then what's next? Bumtrack started to or didn't started. Bumtrack sponsored a bunch more of like ultra events, and maybe I want to do a few of these like light ultras. BroomWagon also with Sofyan.
Yes, yes, yes.
Bumtrack has a really really big name in the like the ultra events. That's a little bit too ultra for me, but like Tuscany Trail, I think it's like 400 or 500 kilometer
You have
events
done
like
it
that.
already, or it's going to be the first time?
No,
Tuscany
no, no,
Trail.
first time.
Oh,
I
nice.
race I
Okay.
race so much in Italy, and of course enjoy the Italian life in many ways, shapes, and form possible. But that's
The
not for
first.
the podcast.
Yeah.
But now there's also a different approach to racing a little bit, but still the same approach to life. I want to do a bit more of those events, and I think 2 or 3 years ago I got my paragliding license, and that's actually my very big hobby of mine, paragliding.
Nice.
And 2 years ago, they started kind of like a new sport, so to say, and it's called aerodlon,
Okay.
where you have to do a mountain bike. So first you do a mountain bike. It's like triathlon. First you mountain bike, then you do trail running, but they call it speed hiking, but it's trail running basically
Okay.
up the mountain with your paraglider, and then you have to fly down a set course to the finish line.
Oh, no, wow.
So
Yes.
and there's like I think next year I checked the calendar. There's like 8 events from which only 2 are in Europe. The rest are like in South America, or in America, and Canada. But there's one in I think in Austria and one in Poland. So I hope to do those over the summer and then join some of the Bontrek events. And as I did the Cape Epic with Nicky together, of Nicky Terpstra. I've traveled with him to some gravel races as well together, and those things I still really enjoy. Those weekends racing together with some friends and guys who
Of
are really
course.
fanatic at the race, because I'm still like I hate losing, and
You're a
cycling.
super competitive guy. Yes, 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 you
Yeah,
are.
cycling might not be the best sport if you hate losing, but I'm still very competitive. And then I think if you have found some like-minded people to do those trips with those gravel races, like serious towards the race, serious preparation, food plan, course recon, make a race plan together, so to say. But then as soon as you cross the finish line, it's also like time to relax, have some fun, have a nice dinner in the evening, put the bikes back in the van, and go back home. And if the hopefully, and I'm pretty sure some opportunities like that will arise to do 1 or 2 or 3 gravel races. Have to see what comes up on the mountain bike. Unfortunately, this year the Cape Epic doesn't take, or the Cape Epic, what I'm saying, the mountain bike Transalp does not take place anymore, which I've often
Mhm.
done in the summer, because one of my sponsors, Maxis, is a very big sponsor there
Mhm.
as well. So I also need to see, depending, for example, where some of my sponsors allocate their budgets,
Exactly.
is
Where are they sending you?
basically that. So and then decide a bit on those events. But for sure, keep the adventure going, and travel with a wild field of view to the races and very nice places.
But talking about actually the cyclocross in Japan, do you have a main event that
Yeah.
you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so for me, the main event is, of course, it's when a profession when you're a professional for so many years, your main event is the main event of the sponsor,
Of
basically.
course, of
Who
course.
pays decides. So for me, there was the Sakai Cyclocross a few weeks ago, or no, not a few weeks ago. Like my first trip here in Japan this winter was also UCI race in the Biwako Lake,
Mhm.
which is, yeah, of course, some extra UCI points are always handy for your starting row, but in 2 weeks here's the Tokyo Supercross,
Yeah,
which is uh, which is actually also the event I firstly got introduced to cyclocross in Japan.
yeah, last year.
It's at the Harbor Place in Tokyo,
Nice.
and very nice photos. Because then
Yes.
you're racing cyclocross in a sand pit, and then you see those massive cranes in the background unloading shipping
Oh,
containers from boats.
nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so yeah, I really look forward to that. I did hear from some riders around here that it is they if Japanese people already say that the course is small, then the lap is probably going to be like 4 minutes per lap or 5 minutes per lap. So it's
Okay.
probably going to be very very small. But yeah, that's a very nice event here in Japan. Also a very famous one. So for me, yeah, it's quite an important one. And coming weekend, I race Yamaguchi Cyclocross. It's a GCX race, so the national cup
Yeah.
national series. Then Tokyo Supercross, and then the last race I'll do here is on the Shizuoka Island, quite famous island for the architecture, but the Sissoko Island is actually very famous for the noodles, udon noodles. And you
Nice.
might know those big white
Absolutely
Japanese
love
noodles.
the udon noodles. I love them.
Well, that is the udon noodle prefecture, so the udon noodle province of Japan. The cyclocross race is also called udon cross.
Of
If you
course.
win the race, you get a lot of udon noodles,
Yes.
and so that's actually, and it's quite a small event. So let's not make it bigger than it is. But also, those kind of events are actually what I love to do. And then I go to udon cross, eat noodles until I can't ride anymore, basically.
That's the best. That's the best.
Yeah.
I have the last question of over the shoulder for you, Gosse.
Now,
Why do you love cyclocross?
we should done after 1 hour.
I know, I know. I'm gonna give you 3 minutes. Time box again.
Oh, 3 minutes time box. Yeah, for me, it's a combination of many factors, and especially the years that I was coming up, racing everything in Belgium and the Netherlands. Like the spectators have, for me, always been a very important factor in the way I also enjoyed the sport, so to say. And yeah, you could say like, oh yeah, it's weak of mind. You have to be focused on your job. But like, if there's thousands of people screaming your name and cheering you on, like I can always cycle a little bit faster. Like might be different for other people. I can go a little bit faster if everybody's cheering me up. So for me, that has always been very nice. And as well as like just looking at my own physique, I'm 175. I'm 62 kilos. Like I'm more of a climber type, not the big heavy guy. So for me, road cycling, yeah, in the Netherlands, like I'm a little bit trapped in the flats and the winds.
Mm.
But in the cyclocross, also my technical skills really express themselves on the course because yeah, physical, I just lack the power, the skills, the engine, whatever you want to call it, to be a really good road cyclist. And also something I've never had ambitions to, but for cyclocross, it's just the technical element, and just there's so many different things involved there, which makes it for me really nice. And yeah, there's more action. I like overtaking. I like heavy action packed racing, and not necessarily a 200-kilometer UCI classic race. And I've done many of those, and they're many times quite boring, in my perspective. But for many people, that's their gig. But I just love cyclocross.
Thanks a lot, Gosse. Really, it was an amazing honor to have you back on the BroomWagon. And you always know that the door of the BroomWagon is always open. Talk about cross, talking about noodles, talking about whatever you want. It was a great pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, it was very nice to be back, and hopefully the listeners also really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Maybe the last question that I want to ask you: where people can find you on the internet, also because they can follow you then your adventure around.
Yeah, most of the things I just post on my Instagram. It's at Gosinki, or if you type in Gosse van der Meer, or most of the times if you type in Gosse, you already find me. Not that I'm so famous, but there's just not so many people with the name Gosse.
Okay.
So it's Gosse, and yeah, like I'm not the influencer guy with like tens of thousands of followers, and also I've luckily my sponsors also have never sponsored me for any social media activities or those kind of things. I just post things I like to post, and if I think it's funny, it's posting on there, and I try to like let people also like tag along on the trip, so to say. So I'm not posting my training stats or whatever I do or how many intervals I did. Like, oh, if I see a crazy car along the road, or if I see a nice bird, or if I eat
Nice.
weird food, that's kind of like the thing I post. So yeah, if people are into that, seeing the world through my eyes, then they should give me a follow. Or and if not, then not. Yeah, then you look somewhere else for other content.
Absolutely. Gosse, again, thanks a lot. It was a great pleasure. Gosse, really, it was an amazing pleasure to have you on the Over the Shoulder mini-series powered by the BroomWagon Podcast. I'm super, super, super astonished by the fact that we haven't talked for 3 hours. Maybe 4, like we did last time. But still, it was incredible to catch up on how many things you have done in the last 3-4 years that we haven't met in front of this podcast and in front of the microphone. It's blowing, again, my mind hearing how different can be life of a cyclocross athlete. And I'm stoked on the fact that you can do so many things in a different way. I mean, I'm saying it all the time, right? You will not get there on a road bike. Because it's not sitting here and deciding what you can do and what not. You can do whatever you want with whatever you want. You just need an attitude that is a tiny bit different. The attitude that I call why not attitude. Doing things, do it in your own way, enjoy, explore. So instead of getting, because you need a gravel bike to do some adventure, no. Gosse jumped on his cross bike and he started doing all these amazing events in Japan. Why I'm so excited? Probably because I would love to go to Japan one day and enjoy some time there. I think this would be just incredibly amazing. I will go there and I will bring my bike. Maybe for an adventure on a cross circuit. Thanks a lot everybody for arriving till here. If you want, down there below, you will find all my contacts, Calamaro CC or the BroomWagon Podcast on Instagram. And thanks again to Hunt for supporting this mini-series. People are down there, out there, you're just amazing. And it's super cool. I was talking about forward thinking, because Gosse is another guy from the Hunt family. And thanks also to their support, he could do whatever he's doing at the moment. People, enjoy the week, and if it's muddy, go ride some cyclocross.